All right, so we're getting close to being done here. We need to talk about theoretical yield now. Okay, so theoretical yield, um, that's actually what we've been calculating up to this point. In theory, that's how much you should be able to produce of the product. Okay, um, now that's not the same as the actual yield. We know that things go wrong in the lab. Sometimes things happen. We don't get as much of the product back as we should. Okay. Um, what we get in the lab is usually less than 100%. And by usually, I mean it's pretty much always less than 100%. And there's lots of reasons for that. Um, so some of the reasons include, just experimenter error, lab equipment error. Sometimes all the reactant doesn't come into contact with all of the product, and so you end up with some of it remaining unreacted at the end. Those sorts of things, okay? So there's lots of reasons that we would have that, but I think you guys are probably okay with the fact that what we actually get is not as much as we should theoretically get, okay? So percent yield, when you calculate that, you're comparing the amount that you actually got to the amount it was possible to make, okay? And so percent yield is a pretty simple thing. All you do is you take the actual yield divided by the theoretical, how much you should have been able to make based on the stoichiometry calculation, times 100. Okay? That'll give you the percent yield. So sample problem here. Let's look at this. I'm not even sure how to pronounce this. Adipic acid used to produce nylon. Okay? And it shows the reaction that's used to produce the acid. And then they're asking, let's say that we start with 25 grams of cyclohexane, and the cyclohexane is the limiting reactant. So we want to know what the theoretical yield is of the acid. Okay, now this is nice because we don't have to worry about which one is the limiting reactant. They're already telling us that. So we're starting with 25.0 grams of the cyclohexane, C6H12. Okay, and what they want to know is what's the theoretical yield of the acid that we should be able to make. So we're going from grams of C6H12 to moles of C6H12. And in 1 mole, we have 84 grams. Again, I'm approximating with my molar masses. So then we're going to go from moles of C6H12 to moles of what I'm trying to find here, okay, which is the acid. So moles of H2C6H8O4. And the mole ratio here is 2 to 2. So that step is kind of meaningless. Now when they ask for theoretical yield, this is a good thing to know. They don't want to know how many moles, they want to know how many grams. Okay? So we always have to go back to grams on these types of problems. So moles of H2, C6, H8O4. This is going to be fun. So in one mole of that, let's figure out how many grams we have. So that's going to be 2 plus... It's going to be about 146 grams per mole there. Alright, so when we figure all this out, should get 43.5 grams of the adipic acid, or adipic acid. Okay, that's our theoretical yield. That's how much we should be able to get if everything was 100% and everything went perfect. Okay? Now what they want to know is, let's say that we get 33.5 grams instead, what's the percent yield? Okay? So, again, percent yield is going to be actual over theoretical. So our actual here is 33.5 grams. Our theoretical is 43.5 grams. We multiply those by 100. That's going to give us 77.1%. And that's our yield, okay? Which is not great, but it's not horrible. Now, if you ever, this is actually a good way to check this to make sure that you're on the right track with your theoretical yield. If your actual yield that they give you ends up being bigger than the theoretical yield that you calculated, you probably calculated something wrong on your theoretical yield, because your percent yield can never be bigger than 100%. Okay? So there was something else that I was going to tell you here. I don't remember what it was. So you find your theoretical yield. Once you find your theoretical yield, then you're going to divide that by the actual, or divide the actual by the theoretical times 100. Oh, I remember what it was. The actual yield, you will never have to calculate that, okay? This number right here, they will always give it to you in a problem. They will tell you this is what was actually obtained in the lab, or this is what was collected in the lab, or that sort of thing. It'll tell something about this is what you actually did, or this is what actually happened in the lab. That's your actual yield. Theoretical is what you calculate based on the starting amounts that you have. Okay? Hopefully that all makes sense. I rushed through that, but again, that's just a basic overview of what we talked about with stoichiometry last year. I think you guys are probably okay with that stuff. If you're not, make sure you come talk to me, because it's important that you understand how to do this stuff. And we will do lots of practice with this in class, because they do like to give you stoichiometry problems on the AP exam. Alright, so that's it for today. We'll see you in class.